emergency?
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. It's like we're just pushing guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here and got chased to the woods. Please hurry.
Okay, now run that by me.
I'm not talking to him. I actually ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance?
Yeah, no, I need the cops.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello? Hello? Hello?
On the night of August 8, 2013, 26-year-old Brandon Lawson made a call that would become the last known communication with him before he vanished into thin air. What followed was a case that would leave family members, investigators, and even armchair detectives baffled, a mystery that continues to haunt the small town of Bronte, Texas, and the surrounding area to this day. Brandon Lawson, a father of two and a man with a checkered past, was in the midst of a personal crisis when he disappeared. His sudden and inexplicable vanishing set off a frantic search across remote Texas landscapes and sparked numerous theories, none of which have been proven to this day. Despite law enforcement efforts, the disappearance of Brandon Lawson remains one of the most perplexing unsolved cases in recent years. This is the story of Brandon Lawson, the eerie circumstances surrounding his disappearance, the chilling 911 call he made that night, and the theories that continue to swirl around what happened to him. Brandon Lawson was born on May 3, 1987 in Texas and grew up in the small town of San Angelo. By all accounts, Brandon was a fun-loving and hard-working man, though his life had not been without its struggles. He had two young children, one a son and one a daughter from his previous relationships, and he had recently split with his girlfriend, who was living in a different town. Brandon had faced personal issues throughout his life, including trouble with the law and struggles with alcohol. He had been arrested in the past for minor offenses, including a DUI charge. However, his family and friends would describe him as someone who loved his children deeply and was trying to turn his life around. By the summer of 2013, Brandon had moved back in with his father in the small town of Bronte, located about 15 miles north of San Angelo. It was a quiet rural area with rolling hills and wide open spaces. Brandon had recently been working as a construction laborer and was making an effort to stay sober. He was also trying to reconnect with his children, who lived with their mother, and was hopeful that he could rebuild his life. But that summer night, everything would change. On the evening of August 8, 2013, Brandon Lawson was driving from San Angelo back to Bronte after a visit to his children. His vehicle was low on gas, and at around 11:50 p.m., Brandon stopped at a gas station on the outskirts of San Angelo. He had only $1.75 in his pocket, but he was able to purchase some fuel with a credit card and began heading back toward Bronte. Brandon had been involved in a minor altercation earlier that evening, but nothing seemed amiss. His phone records later showed that at around 12:30 a.m., he called his brother, Kyle Lawson, to inform him that he had run out of gas on the highway between San Angelo and Bronte. Brandon told Kyle he was just outside of the small town of Bronte and needed help. Brandon had asked his brother to come pick him up, but it would turn out to be an odd and troubling request. When Kyle made his way toward the area, he could not find his brother. He then received a strange phone call at approximately 12:50 a.m., the last contact anyone would have with Brandon Lawson. Around the same time that Kyle was trying to locate his brother, Brandon made a call to 911. The call, which would become one of the most haunting and puzzling pieces of evidence in the case, lasted for nearly 4 minutes and was full of strange and disjointed statements. It was Brandon's last known communication before he disappeared. The 911 call begins with Brandon stating that he needs help. He explains that his truck has run out of gas and that he is stranded. He sounds agitated and his speech is slurred. It is unclear if Brandon was intoxicated, in distress, or perhaps even injured at the time of the call. As the conversation progresses, the dispatcher tries to get more information from him, but Brandon's responses become increasingly difficult to understand. At one point, Brandon says, I'm in the middle of nowhere," before adding, "I got somebody after me." The dispatcher asks if he knows who is after him, and Brandon responds with something unintelligible. The dispatcher then hears what sounds like the sound of rustling or movement, as if Brandon is attempting to flee from something. During the call, Brandon is heard repeatedly saying that he needs help and that he's in danger. At one point, he abruptly says, "I'm gonna die out here." Then, just as abruptly, the call ends with no further explanation or sound. The 911 dispatcher, understandably alarmed by the bizarre and fragmented nature of the call, tried to call back, but Brandon's phone went straight to voicemail. His brother Kyle was the next person to receive an alarming call. The brothers had agreed to meet up and get Brandon back home, but when Kyle arrived at the location Brandon had mentioned, he found no trace of him. When Kyle could not find Brandon after the 911 call, he became frantic and immediately alerted the authorities. A search was launched the following morning, with law enforcement, family members, and volunteers combing the area surrounding the highway. They searched for hours, covering miles of desolate terrain, but there was no sign of Brandon or his vehicle. The area where Brandon had gone missing was sparse, with vast stretches of dirt roads and brush-filled land. There was no clear indication of where he could have gone after the 911 call ended. Police noted that his truck was still located on the side of the road, and the fuel tank was empty. However, there was no evidence of foul play at the scene, no sign of a struggle, and no indication that Brandon had been attacked or had injured himself in any way. The initial search focused on a wide radius around the truck, but there were no clues, no traces of Brandon's movement, and no footprints leading away from the scene. Authorities even used dogs to try to track his scent, but they were unable to pick up any trail beyond the truck itself. As the days went by with no new leads, the case began to attract media attention, but there was still no indication of what had happened to Brandon Lawson. Theories started to emerge, and the strange 911 call was discussed in detail on social media and true crime forums. The haunting nature of his words, "I got somebody after me, I'm gonna die out here," and the confusion that surrounded the call fueled speculation that something far more sinister had occurred. Over the years, various theories have emerged surrounding Brandon's disappearance, but none of them have been definitively proven. What exactly happened to Brandon Lawson that night remains a mystery. Some of the most prominent theories include: one of the most popular theories is that Brandon was the victim of a criminal act. According to this theory, Brandon was indeed being followed by someone, possibly a person or a group of individuals. His 911 call mentioned that he was being pursued, and it's possible that whoever was after him caught up with him after the call ended. Some believe that Brandon may have been abducted or murdered, and his body hidden somewhere in the vast Texas wilderness. This theory is supported by the fact that there was no sign of struggle or violence at the scene where his truck was found. His vehicle had not been stolen, and his belongings, including his wallet and phone, were left behind. Another theory revolves around Brandon's personal life, which was not without its struggles. Brandon had been arrested for drug-related offenses in the past, and some people speculate that he may have been involved in a drug deal gone wrong that night. If he was involved in any illegal activity, it could explain the fear and paranoia he expressed in his 911 call. The theory suggests that Brandon may have been trying to escape from people who were threatening him, and this led to him making the 911 call. However, no solid evidence has emerged to confirm this theory, and family members have consistently stated that they believe Brandon was trying to turn his life around and get sober at the time of his disappearance. Some experts and family members have speculated that Brandon may have been experiencing a mental health crisis at the time of his disappearance. The slurred speech in his 911 call, along with his disjointed statements and fear of being chased, could suggest that he was dealing with paranoia or delusions. It's possible that Brandon's mental state was exacerbated by the emotional turmoil of his breakup, his personal struggles, and the isolation he felt while being in a rural area. This theory proposes that Brandon may have wandered into the woods or nearby fields in a confused and disoriented state, not realizing the danger he was in. Another possibility, though less likely, is that Brandon staged his own disappearance. Some speculate that he may have been trying to escape from his troubles, such as his breakup, debts, or other personal problems. Faking his death would explain the lack of evidence and the seemingly deliberate nature of his disappearance. However, this theory is often dismissed by those who knew Brandon. His family and friends maintain that he would not have abandoned his children or his loved ones, especially after he had made efforts to rebuild his life. Despite an extensive investigation, a number of search efforts, and the passage of years, the mystery of Brandon Lawson's disappearance remains unsolved. There have been no new leads or developments, and his whereabouts remain unknown. Some wonder if Brandon is still out there, wandering the wilderness, while others fear that he met a much darker fate. What happened to Brandon Lawson that night remains one of the most baffling true crime mysteries of recent years. As the case continues to linger in the public consciousness, his family and friends are left searching for answers, hoping for a resolution to the questions that have haunted them since that fateful night in August 2013. Until new evidence comes to light, the disappearance of Brandon Lawson will remain an enduring enigma, one that serves as a haunting reminder of how quickly someone can vanish without a trace.